The focus of this event is to review the teaching and learning approaches for the externally assessed Unit 1, the online world. It will allow you to receive feedback on performance of learners, consider questions where significant numbers of learners underperformed and possible reasons why, discuss the lead examiner's report, consider delivery strategies and share good practice, address common issues, find out about further support available. We have a lot to cover in this event, so let's get started. The early part of the test is aimed at Level 1 and Level 2 pass, and at this level, learners are typically required to recall facts, perform basic procedures, and apply basic understanding to familiar topics and scenarios. As the test progresses, learners are expected to apply more in-depth understanding. Questions at this level may require a learner to describe or explain their understanding, which should prompt linked, in-depth responses that show broader, deeper knowledge of the subject matter. Where appropriate, learners should apply their response to a given vocational scenario. The final question of the test requires an extended response and is designed to differentiate at pass, merit, and distinction levels. Overall, most learners were able to respond well to questions earlier in the test, especially where questions related to more common everyday computer use. Where learners' performance were less successful across the whole of the test, two main characteristics were evident. 1. Learners often did not respond in the way that was expected by the command verb. For example, responses to explain questions often did not provide suitable linked expansions and demonstrated only a superficial understanding of the subject matter. A first mark is awarded for the identification, then a second mark is awarded for an expansion on the same identification. 2. Many learners did not demonstrate sufficient breadth and depth of knowledge across the whole specification, particularly in relation to more technical subjects. Generally, learners coped well with the on-screen testing mechanisms and were able to complete the test in the allotted time. However, performance in some areas could be improved, particularly in questions where more open responses are required. Online on demand. A mixture of multi-choice, open, closed and extended answers from questions 1 to 17, starting with Level 1 questions and progressing in demand throughout the paper. Question 18. Extended response required. For example, discuss. Test duration is 1 hour. 50 marks are available. There is a resit opportunity. Preparation is required. The unit is assessed at every level from L1 for the first few multi-choice questions to Question 18's extended answer 8-mark distinction question. Question structures. Pass. Multi-choice, drag and drop, one-word response. Assessment verb. Identify, state, name, label, match. Merit. Open response. Assessment verb. Explain. Distinction. Extended writing. Assessment verb. Discuss. The test should be taken after the underpinning knowledge has been delivered. The appropriate test time is January or February. Appropriate resits time, March or April. Planning is key for the successful delivery of the external unit. Revision topics. The learning aims are split into topic areas. Focus on each of the specific areas, for example, LA, A first. Sample assessment materials. A live test interface is available online for the learners to become familiar with the test platform. Question papers. A variety of retired tests are available online. Mark schemes. A variety of mark schemes are available online. Chief Examiner reports. A variety of Chief Examiner reports are available online. Published resources. A variety of published resources provides guidance on exam preparation. Test entry. The planning of the test is important. We have found that learners perform better towards the end of the course. However, sufficient time should be planned for retakes. We will now consider the learning aim requirements. A. Investigate online services and online communication. Understand how and why online services can be used. Understand the features of online advertising designed to capture attention and retain interest. Understand the affiliate model of pay-per-click direction of traffic to websites. Understand the services provided for online data storage, including data backup, file access, and file sharing. Understand online document systems. Understand how and why online communication can be used. Recognize and use appropriate key terms in online communication. Understand the implications of online communication. Understand and compare the issues involved when communicating and working online. B. Investigate components of the Internet and how digital devices exchange and store information. Understand what the Internet is, how it works, and how it is structured. Understand the concepts, functions, and impact of the World Wide Web. Understand the purpose, concepts, processes, and implications of email. Understand the concepts, processes, and implications of data exchange and compare different methods. Understand the concepts, structures, and implications of wireless networks. Understand the concepts, processes, and implications of data storage. C. Investigate issues with operating online. Understand the concepts, applications, processes, and implications regarding protecting data online. Consider ways in which online technology can be used to monitor individuals' movements and communications. In relation to IT systems, consider how current legislation controls how personal data can be used and must be protected by organizations. A lot of learners only provided 1 or 2 word answers when an explanation or description was required. Learners need to be taught the meaning of the verbs used in the test. For example, a question could ask the learner to explain a technology. A lot of learners simply identified the technology where 1 mark would be awarded, but missed out on the 2nd mark as they didn't explain what the technology did in more detail. Learners are asked questions surrounding how each technology works, not simply what they do. For example, the learners probably know what emails are used for, online communication, but they also have to be familiar with how they work, IMAP, store and forward, etc. Each test we set asks different questions and may assess different parts of the unit content outlined in the specification. It would be unfair to learners if we set the same grade boundaries for each test, because then it wouldn't take into account that a test might be slightly easier or more difficult than any other. In this section, we will look at example questions, how marks are awarded, and Chief Examiner comments. The next few slides will review each of the questions in turn, how the marks were awarded, and the Chief Examiner's comments on the question. Targeted Specification Area, Learning Aim A3, Online Communication. Lead Examiner's comments. the majority of learners understood that fibre optic was not a method of online communication. Learners sometimes rush this question and select social networking, thinking it's the correct answer. The actual answer is fibre optic. Targeted specification area, learning aim A2, online documents. Lead examiner's comments. Most learners selected the 2 correct reasons why files would be compressed from the options offered. The answer is, transfer time for compressed files is reduced, and multiple files can be sent in a single compressed folder. Targeted specification area, learning aim C1, possible threats to data. Lead examiner's comments. 3A. Most learners achieved the mark for providing one-way data stored on a network can be protected from external threats. Firewall and antivirus were the most popular responses. 3B. Most learners achieved the mark for this question. Password was identified in the STEM as one way a school can control how much of a student's personal data is viewed by different members of staff. Learners were required to provide one other way of controlling how much of this data can be viewed. Most learners identified that file permissions or levels of access were methods of controlling how much data can be viewed by a receptionist. For 3A, 1 mark can be awarded for any of the following: firewall, encryption, antivirus software. For 3B, 1 mark can be awarded for any of the following: levels of permission or file permission, different access rights or levels of access, user profiles. Access control is not acceptable. Targeted specification area, learning aim A1, online services. Lead examiner's comments. 4A. Most learners understood that business would use video conferencing. Answer: business. 4B. Most learners identified that one benefit of collaborative working was that documents could be shared. Answer: documents can be shared. Targeted specification area, learning aim B2, World Wide Web. Lead examiner's comments. Most learners correctly identified TD and TR as being the 2 HTML tags used when creating tables. Answer: TD and TR. Targeted specification area, learning aim A3, online communication. Lead examiner's comments. Most learners were aware of the 2 correct benefits of using instant messaging when communicating with friends. This question may have been answered correctly by most learners due to their own experiences. Targeted specification area, learning aim C1, possible threats to data. Lead examiner's comments. This question was made up of Part A and Part B. Both required learners to provide 2 responses for each part to gain a total of 4 marks. 7A. Most learners identified 2 reasons why it is important that payment details are kept secure. The most popular responses were to stop people getting hold of the details and using the card to buy things without her knowledge, and to prevent identity theft. Answer: award 1 mark for any of the following up to a maximum of 2 marks. To stop anyone else getting hold of or seeing her personal payment details. To stop identity theft. And to stop people pretending to be her. To stop people spending or taking her money from her account without her knowledge. 7B. Learners were required to identify 2 ways of knowing a site is secure when entering payment details. Most were aware of HTTPS, but fewer learners understood that the location of the padlock was important, i.e. on the address bar rather than on the web page itself. Answers: HTTPS appearing in the browser address bar, a padlock or lock image or icon on the URL or address bar. But we could not accept a padlock or lock on the main page or on its own. Targeted Specification Area, Learning Aim B4, Data Exchange. Lead examiner's comments. Some learners were able to correctly identify a sender's IP address as being one component of a packet header. Answer: sender's IP address. Targeted Specification Area, Learning Aim C1, Possible Threats to Data. Lead examiner's comments. This question asked learners to describe one method of accessing data without damage when using the Internet. Where learners provided a correct response, it was for identifying either phishing or farming as the method, but there was nothing further on how phishing or farming works. Award 1 mark for identification and 1 additional mark for appropriate expansion. Phishing, 1 mark, where you are asked for personal information such as bank details so money can be taken from the bank but no damage is done to the computer, 1 mark. Piggybacking, 1 mark, where normal safe communication carries additional harmful payloads of a covert application, or where someone gains illegal entry to a restricted site on the back of a legal entrant but no damage is done to the computer, 1 mark. Tunnels, 1 mark, where they are formed via existing communication channels to send alternative data, but no damage is done to the computer, 1 mark. Probes, 1 mark, where an open port is accessed and an analysis of the network or computer system is carried out, but no damage is done to the computer, 1 mark. Farming, 1 mark, when visiting a website you are automatically directed to a fake website where you enter personal details. They are stolen, 1 mark. Targeted Specification Area, Learning Aim B2, World Wide Web. Lead examiner's comments. Most learners achieved 2 marks for correctly identifying hotspot and hyperlink as the 2 navigation tools used within websites. This question may have been answered correctly by most learners due to their own experiences. Answer: hotspot, hyperlink. Targeted Specification Area, Learning Aim C1, Possible Threats to Data. Lead examiner's comments. Most learners correctly identified the 2 correct pieces of advice to follow when using passwords. This question was possibly answered correctly by most learners due to their own experiences. Answer: change the password regularly. Use a mix of letters, numbers and symbols. Targeted Specification Area, Learning Aim C1, Possible Threats to Data. Lead examiner's comments. 4 marks were available for this question. 2 methods needed to be explained to gain full marks. Each method could be awarded 2 marks, 1 for the method, the second for the expansion of that method. This question was generally not well answered. The stem of the question stated that Robin had accidentally deleted files from his computer and emptied the recycle bin. Learners were required to identify how Robin could retrieve his files. Most learners provided a response where Robin either looked in the recycle bin or accessed the backup. The stem of the question already ruled out these 2 options. Learners were required to understand how to recover data if lost. Answer: award 1 mark for identification and 1 additional mark for appropriate expansion up to a maximum of 4 marks. Undelete software, 1 mark, which locates the disk space that was occupied by a deleted file and can restore from this information, 1 mark. Use the previous version feature, 1 mark, which, providing Robin has set up this facility, will hold earlier copies of folders and files for a period of time, 1 mark. Targeted specification area, learning aim B4, data exchange. Lead examiner's comments. Learners were required to identify 2 reasons why codecs were used. The STEM provided learners with a description of what a codec was. Few learners correctly identified the correct reasons. Answer: compresses video files and makes them playable on a computer. Compresses video files to speed up download time. Targeted specification area, learning aim A3, online communication. Lead examiner's comments. 4 marks were available for this question. 2 ways of sharing video files were needed and described to gain full marks. 1 mark for the way, the second for the expansion of that same way. Most learners tended to achieve 2 marks for their responses to this question. These marks were generally awarded for providing 2 ways of sharing video files, but learners tended to not provide a description of how this was done. Some learners did, however, achieve 3 or 4 marks by describing one or both of the ways identified. The most popular responses were uploading to online storage facilities and uploading to video sharing websites. However, learners were not always aware of how to notify others that the videos had been uploaded. This question may have been answered correctly by most learners due to their own experiences. Answer: award 1 mark for identification and 1 additional mark for appropriate expansion up to a maximum of 4 marks. Online storage facilities, for example Dropbox, cloud, file sharing sites, 1 mark. Where he can allow others access to the files by inviting them to the area by email or provide users with a link to the video, 1 mark. Online video sharing sites, for example YouTube, 1 mark, allow anyone connected to the web to easily upload and post digital video recordings, 1 mark. Video conferencing software, 1 mark. App share, where external users view the video at the same time as it plays on the host computer, 1 mark. Instant messaging, 1 mark, where staff are notified automatically by email with a pop-up, 1 mark. Social networking sites, 1 mark, where all staff are notified with an automatic post update, 1 mark. Targeted specification area, learning aim B4, data exchange. Lead examiner's comments. This question required learners to understand why server-side processing was used for online auction sites. Most learners did not provide responses relating to server-side processing. Where learners were awarded marks, they tended to be for understanding that the auction website needed to have live updating, so all bidders see the updated items at the same time. 1 response from a learner was awarded 2 marks. The auction has to be done in real time because there can be more than 1 person bidding on an item, and everyone who is bidding on the item needs to see if anyone else has bid on the same item. Answer: award 1 mark for identification and 1 additional mark for appropriate expansion up to a maximum of 4 marks. A powerful server needs to be used rather than Dan's own computer. 1 mark. To enable the large database to be interrogated at a reasonable speed. 1 mark. Security of Dan's data, personal data plus bidding data, and auction website data, 1 mark, because this data must be processed by a secure server, or if it was processed client-side, it would only have security on personal data, 1 mark. The server would need to update the item or bid. Targeted specification area, learning aim B5, data storage. Lead examiner's comments. This question required learners to understand how relational databases worked. 16a. Some learners identified the use of primary and foreign keys, but didn't go on to explain how they are used to link data within tables. Some learners identified that the tables shown were one-to-many, but didn't go on to explain the statement. A mark could be achieved for identifying that files could be zipped. Most learners achieved this mark. Answer: Award 1 mark for identification and 1 additional mark for appropriate expansion. The higher table is the link between the 3 tables, as the primary key in the car table, reg number, is the foreign key in the higher table, 1 mark, whereas the primary key in the customer table, customer ID, is in the higher table as a foreign key, so this is how the 3 tables are linked, 1 mark. The relationship between car and hire is one-to-many, 1 mark, and the relationship between customer and hire is also one-to-many, 1 mark. Award 1 mark for one-to-many on its own. 16b. Some learners understood that relational databases could reduce the occurrence of data duplication, and some learners also provided an appropriate expansion. Marks were also awarded to learners who understood that there was less likelihood of errors as data needed to be only entered once. Answer. Award 1 mark for identification and 1 additional mark for appropriate expansion. By having a number of tables rather than one large table, data duplication, data redundancy, is reduced, and data consistency increased, 1 mark. So the database is more efficient and therefore quicker when carrying out searches, 1 mark. With a large single table database, data is keyed in many times and could be entered incorrectly, 1 mark. Whereas, with a relational database, smaller tables are created and the data is only keyed in once, so less likelihood of errors, 1 mark. Targeted Specification Area, Learning Aim A3, Online Communication. Lead examiner's comments. This question required learners to describe one way students could use social networking to help them with their studies. Most learners were able to provide information on using social networking sites to communicate with friends, but were not always able to link its use to learning. Where marks were awarded, they tended to be for uploading materials or resources and working in groups. However, few learners achieved the expansion marks as they had not provided any further information on the way identified. Answer. Award 1 mark for identification and 1 additional mark for appropriate expansion. Students can socially interact with each other on the topics and can start discussion groups, 1 mark, which could allow them to see different points of views or ideas they hadn't considered, 1 mark. The site would allow collaborative working. Students can work with other members of the group, 1 mark, without being in the same place, so they can work outside school hours to get more done, 1 mark. Can upload clips and resources from the internet for each other to access and share links, 1 mark, so that more up-to-date and appropriate sources can be shared, 1 mark. Targeted Specification Area, Learning Aim B2, World Wide Web. Lead examiner's comments. Most learners achieved marks for this question, and very few gained no marks. Extended writing questions are designed to assess learners' ability to analyse, evaluate, make reasoned judgments, and present conclusions. Many learners made a good number of individual points without expansion, and so restricted themselves to mark band 1. Overall, quality of written communication was better than previous tests. There was some evidence from some learners of the use of connectives to help achieve a logical flow to their discussion, retaining focus and supporting better organisation of their response. This is a useful writing skill and should be practiced. This question required learners to discuss the use of smartphones in school to carry out research. There are 3 mark bands for this question, up to a maximum mark of 8 marks. Learner responses generally tended to be in the lower 2 mark bands, with some achieving marks in mark band 3. Indicative content. How to use the smartphone as a research tool. Question what is required before going online. Have a plan or search strategy so time is not wasted. Analyze and categorize data found. Integrate the information and draw conclusions. Evaluate the findings. Advantages. Access to the network will be quick. Students can access the internet anywhere on the site and are not necessarily restricted to a classroom. Some smartphones have Office applications, which can be used anywhere to make notes. Schools may not have enough computers, but most students will have a smartphone. Being able to carry out specific searches will speed up the research process. Powerful engines allow speedy results. Data can be transferred to cloud storage. Learners have friends as contacts, so can share resources. May also be a disadvantage. Flexible study time. Many homes do not have access to books. Yet, students have smartphones with 3G, so can continue researching at home. Schools may encourage students to use their smartphones appropriately for schoolwork. Loads of education apps available to aid learning. Encourages anytime, anywhere learning. QR codes on material from external companies around the school. Disadvantages. Are students losing out if they don't have one? Do students feel isolated if they don't have one? Yet another reason for bullying? Are families pressured into buying them? Students can become distracted and can move on to games or communicating with friends rather than continuing with their work. Students may allow their phones to go off in class, which is distracting for other students and teachers. Can be easily lost or stolen in an environment where they are always on display. Information gathered is not necessarily available instantly as a printed document. Level 0. 0 marks. No rewardable material. Level 1. 1 to 3 marks. A few key points identified, or 1 point described in some detail. The answer is likely to be in the form of a list. Only one viewpoint considered. Points made will be superficial and generic, and not applied or directly linked to the situation in the question. Level 2. 4 to 6 marks. Some points identified, or a few key points described. Consideration of more than one viewpoint, but there will be more emphasis on one of them. Most points made will not be relevant to the situation in the question, but the link will not always be clear. Level 3. 7 to 8 marks. Range of points described, or a few key points explained in depth. All sides of the case are considered and the answer is well balanced, giving weight to all viewpoints. The majority of points made will be relevant, and there will be a clear link to the situation in the question. Our comprehensive online specification packs include a wide range of support to help you plan, deliver and assess BTEC with confidence. Specification, giving you clear, handy guidance on the unit-by-unit content. Sample assessment materials, SAMs. An external test providing you with examples, so you can help your learners prepare for and take the test with confidence. Delivery guide, a companion to the specification that contains a wealth of ideas for practical activities, useful advice about external assessment, and top tips to help you find new, engaging ways to deliver the BTEC program. Study skills activities, a range of case studies and activities designed to help learners develop the skills they will need to successfully complete their BTEC course. Subject advisor. You can email specific questions to the ICT subject advisor. Please look at the webpage for further guidance. Ask the expert. Can provide specific guidance or response. My BTEC. A copy of the My BTEC presentation is available in the Delegate pack. My BTEC is the easier way to manage your delivery. Step-by-step wizards for the key tasks. Walk-through videos and other resources are available on demand. Our face-to-face training events in the UK and worldwide are designed for anyone teaching or interested in teaching Edexcel, BTEC, EDI or LCCI qualifications from Pearson. Our popular, engaging and cost-effective face-to-face training is interactive, is held at various locations in the UK and internationally provides opportunities for networking and sharing good practice. Attending a face-to-face event is a great way to meet and share ideas with other teaching professionals. Before booking your place on a training event, please make sure you've read and understood our terms and conditions. Online training is a convenient way to access our live, interactive training from your centre or home, anywhere in the world. It's easy to set up and you won't need any special equipment. Our online training is simple to set up. All you need is a computer and an internet connection. Our online training is live and fully interactive, providing immediate feedback to your questions. It's a very cost-effective way to train a group. You can train a whole department with one login, available anywhere in the world. Access our training from wherever you teach. What can you expect from online training? During an online training event, you'll be able to hear your trainer, watch presentations, and ask questions through an on-screen chat window. You can train by yourself or share the event with your department by using a projector. To find out more about how online training works, download our step-by-step guide. Before booking your place on a training event, please make sure you've read and understood our terms and conditions. With centre-based training, you can choose any of our national programme of face-to-face training courses to be delivered at your centre. Our team of specialised trainers can deliver training in your centre at a time that's convenient to you. To ensure the quality of training remains high, we limit the number of delegates to a maximum of 20 members of staff. To share costs, you may wish to invite delegates from other local centres too. A full day of up to 5 hours costs £850. A half day for up to 2.5 hours costs £650. Our fee includes all preparatory expenses, the cost of producing materials, and the delivery of the training itself. We'll send you an invoice 10 working days before the training event. See our list of GQ and VQ centre-based training courses. We can offer any of the training events listed on the above spreadsheet or in your published face-to-face training programme at your centre. We're also happy to talk to you about your specific needs and put together the right training for you from our portfolio of modules and courses. To book a centre-based training event, please complete our booking form and email it to centre-basedtraining@pearson.com. Please give us at least 3 weeks' notice to arrange any training. We'll reply to let you know that we've received your request, but please note that this is not a booking confirmation. We have received feedback on performance of learners, considered questions where significant numbers of learners underperformed and possible reasons why, discussed the lead examiner's report, considered delivery strategies and share good practice, addressed common issues, found out about further support available. Thank you for listening to this event.